Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning to the respected panel of examiners, which is Sir Razif Sazali, Madam Nurhani Shazwani Bakri and Sir Ashraf Zulzali. So my name is Muhammad Afif bin Ismail. Today I am pleased to present my research proposal title, which is Emotional Intelligence and its Influence on Academic Performance among UITM students at Seremban. Okay, we move to the next slide, which is the table of content. So to provide an overview, my presentation will cover the core aspect of my proposal, starting from the background and the problem statement, moving through the research framework and methodology, and concluding with my data analysis plan. Okay, to begin, let's look at the background of the study. Traditionally, student success in higher education has been measured primarily through cognitive abilities or IQ. However, modern research suggests that there is only one part of the equation. Emotional intelligence, or EI, is the ability to recognize, manage, and use emotion effectively. In a university setting, this is a crucial survival skill. It helps students cope with the heavy pressure of assignment, stay motivated during setbacks, and adapt to the social and environmental changes of campus life. As noted by Gartner 2025, specific dimension of emotional intelligence, namely stress management, general mood, and adaptability, are strongly linked to higher GPA and better student retention. Therefore, the objective of this study is to investigate this relationship further, specifically focusing on how this emotional dimension influences the grade point average, which is GPA, at students here at UITM Seremban. Okay, next, we move to the problem statement. So the problem statement is that many institutions prioritize cognitive intelligence over emotional skills, leaving students struggling with social and emotional challenge. This neglect can lead to lower academic performance and increased dropout rates. Furthermore, because of overall emotional intelligence findings can sometimes be inconsistent, this study specifically focuses on stress management, adaptability, and general mood to provide a clearer understanding of the impact of GPA. Okay, next is the research question. So my study is guided by several critical questions. The first one is, what are the levels of emotional intelligence and the current GPA of our undergraduate student? Second, what is the cumulative GPA average or average of the student? Third, to what extent is there a correlation between EI and academic performance? Next, can specific components, stress management, mood, and adaptability significantly predict GPA? And lastly, are there divergences based on demographic like gender and age group? Okay, next, we move to the next slide, which is the research objective. To address this question, my objectives are RO1, to determine the relationship between emotional intelligence and academic standards. RO2, to calculate the predictive capability of stress management, general mood, and adaptability for GPA. And third, to compare this achievement across gender and age cohorts. Okay, for the hypothesis, I have formulated three main hypotheses for this study. Primarily, I hypothesize that there is a significant relationship between emotional intelligence and academic performance. Secondly, I expect that stress management, mood, and adaptability will significantly predict GPA. Lastly, I posit that there are significant differences in this variable based on gender and age group. Okay, now let's moving on to the significance of the study. This research is important for two main reasons. First, it has theoretical implication. While many studies focus on general intelligence quotient, which is IQ, these research add to the growing body of literature that emphasizes the soft skills of emotional intelligence. By specifically examining dimensions like stress management and adaptability, I hope to provide a more nuanced understanding of how these non-cognitive factors contribute to academic achievement. So for the second, and perhaps most importantly, there are practical and institutional implications. Higher education institutions often prioritize grade and cognitive exam, which can lead to students feeling overwhelming or dropping out when they face social and emotional pressure. So the finding of this study could serve as a guide for UiTM Seremban and other campuses to integrate emotional intelligence training into their student support programs. If we can identify which EI traits like general mood and stress management the best predict or a student GPA, the university can develop targeted workshop to help students not only survive but thrive academically. Okay, next for the literature review. So, in my review of the literature, emotional intelligence, which is my IV, is to define as the non-cognitive capabilities that help students cope with environmental demands. Conversely, academic performance, which is my DV, is to define as the extent to which a student has achieved their short or long-term educational goals. Okay, now I would like to direct your attention to the conceptual framework of the study. So this diagram illustrated the hypothesized relationship between my variable. So on the left, we have the independent variable, which fall under the umbrella of emotional intelligence. In this research, I am focusing on 4 key dimensions, which is the first one is self-awareness, the second, self-regulation, and third, motivation, and lastly, the empathy. So this represents the internal emotional skills a student possesses. So as you can see on the right is the dependent variable, which is academic performance. I am measuring this through 3 specific indicators, which is the first one, study habits, classroom engagement, and perceived academic performance. So the core logic of this framework is that students with higher levels of emotional intelligence are better equipped to manage their time and stress, leading to improved study habits. So furthermore, high emotional intelligence allow for better social interaction and focus, which increase classroom engagement. Ultimately, the integration of this emotional skill is predicted to directly influence and improve the student overall academic achievement. Okay, now moving into the third chapter of my proposal, I will now discuss the methodology. So for this study, I have selected a quantitative method design. Why I choose this quantitative method design? I choose this approach because it allows me to objectively measure the levels of emotional intelligence and academic performance among a large group of students. By using numerical data and statistical analysis, I can partially determine the strength of the relationship between my variable and test the hypothesis I mentioned earlier. So this design ensures that the findings are measurable, reliable, and can be used to make a broader a broader generalization about the student population at UiTM Seremban. Okay, now we move to the sample. So for this part, I will be using a quantitative method design. So the target population is about around 5,857 undergraduate students at UiTM Seremban. So based on the Craigie and Morgan table, a minimum of 361 respondents is required to achieve a 95% confidence levels. Okay, next, moving on to the instrumentation. This study utilized a structured questionnaire to collect quantitative data that align directly with my research objective. To ensure clarity and make it easy for respondents to understand and complete, I have divided the questionnaire into 3 main sections. So the reason this section is so vital is that it allows me to perform a comparative analysis. By gathering these details, I can determine if there are significant differences between emotional intelligence and academic performance between different groups, such as comparing results between male and female students or different age cohorts. Now, I will walk you through the data collection procedure. To ensure the integrity and ethical standard of this research, I have established a clear 5-step process. So the first one is ethical approval. The first and most critical step is obtaining formal ethics, approval and permission from the relevant university departments to conduct the study. And second, ask permission to do research. Once approved, I will distribute the link to the online questionnaire. This will include an informed consent form, ensuring all participants understand that their involvement is completely voluntary. And third, give briefing to the sample about the study and questionnaire. I will then manage the collection process, monitoring the responses as they come in to ensure we reach our target sample size. And next, distribute questionnaire to the same. After the collection period, the data will be screened. Any incomplete or invalid responses will be removed to ensure that only high-quality data is used for analysis. And last but not least, collect the questionnaire. Finally, the clean data will be securely stored and prepared for the statistical analysis phase, which I will explain in the next slide. Okay, so finally, I will discuss the data analysis plan. So, this table is a roadmap showing how each research objective will be addressed using specific statistical tests in Jamovi. So, for objective 1 and 2, I will use descriptive statistic, mean and standard deviation to identify the levels of emotional intelligence and the current academic performance among students. So next, for the objective 3, to determine the relationship between emotional intelligence and academic performance, I will utilize a Pearson correlation matrix. This will show us if a higher level of emotional intelligence actually relates to a higher GPA. Next, for objective 4, to see if specific traits like stress management or mood can actually predict success, I will conduct a standard multiple regression analysis. This is the core of my study, as it calculates the predictive power of my independent variables. And last, for objective 5, I will use independent t-test and one-way ANOVA to investigate if there are significant differences based on demographic like gender and age groups. So this systematic approach ensures that the data is not just collected but analyzed with the mathematical rigor required to validate my hypothesis. So here we go. That concludes my presentation. So thank you for your attention, and I am now ready to receive any question or feedback from the honorable panel. So thank you and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.